You know what's more dangerous than failure? The enemy you can't even see. The one that walks with you, sleeps with you, speaks like you, because it is you. You think it's just bad luck, wrong timing, maybe even people hating on your glow. But what if I told you, it's not them, it's you. And it's not your fault. You were just never taught that some of your deepest enemies never introduce themselves. They hide in silence. They wear masks like perfectionism, procrastination, fear. But today, we're going to take that mask off. This is your wake-up call. If you're tired of starting over, if you're tired of feeling almost ready, almost enough, almost happy, then baby, stay right here. Because we're about to break the chains. You tell yourself you're just being realistic, that you're being smart, careful, sensible. But deep down, if you're being honest, it's not realism. It's fear. And fear is very clever. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers in a tone that sounds like logic. It dresses itself up in words like, what if it doesn't work? Or, I'm just not ready yet. And you believe it because it feels safe, but safety is not the same as growth. You've got a dream. Maybe it's starting that business, writing that book, moving to a new city, walking away from a toxic relationship. But the moment you imagine it, a quiet voice says, let's be real. That's too risky. You don't call it fear, you call it strategy. But what if I told you, strategy without movement is just stagnation in disguise? You see a job opening that lights your soul on fire, but then you look at the qualifications and say, I'm not experienced enough. You convince yourself someone else is more qualified, so you don't apply. That's not realism. That's self-doubt. Wearing a mask. You have a talent. Maybe it's art. Maybe it's speaking. Maybe it's leading people. But every time someone compliments you, you brush it off with, I'm not that good. You think you're being humble. But what if that's not humility? What if that's you disqualifying yourself before the world even gets a chance to recognize you? A woman once told me she wanted to launch her skincare line, but she kept delaying it. I want it to be perfect, she said. I don't want to rush. But when I asked her how long she had been planning, she said, 3 years. That's not planning. That's hiding. That's fear cloaked in the lie of preparation. At some point, you've got to stop researching and start rising. Let's say you're in a relationship that's unfulfilling. You know it. Your friends see it. Even your reflection has started looking tired. But you tell yourself, be realistic. Maybe this is all love really is. And just like that, you shrink your heart to fit someone else's comfort zone. That isn't love. That's survival. And survival isn't the same as living. People don't fail because they aren't talented. They fail because they believe a story about themselves that was never true. And most of the time that story sounds something like this. I can't. And I shouldn't. I'm not ready. That is not your voice. That is the echo of years of doubt, rejection, and fear bouncing off the walls of your mind. And here's the wild part. We're so conditioned to believe in failure, we start preparing for it before we even start. You want to open a cafe, you already worry about rent. You want to become a speaker, you already wonder who would even listen. You want to move to another country, you already imagine being lonely. You call it realism, but it's not. It's a prediction poisoned by your past. Realism is important when you're building a bridge. not when you're building a dream. Dreams aren't supposed to be practical. They're supposed to stretch you, scare you, and set your soul on fire. Self-doubt is like gravity. It keeps pulling you down to the same place. And unless you develop mental wings, it will convince you to never leave the ground. Realism should guide you, not paralyze you. Because if you're only willing to do what feels logical, you'll never discover what's possible. Don't you dare use intelligence as a cover for fear. Don't you dare label your hesitation as wisdom. And don't you dare let the voice in your head speak louder than the fire in your heart. You think perfection is your friend, that if you get everything just right, then no one can criticize you, no one can reject you, no one can leave you. So you keep polishing, editing, delaying. But let me tell you a truth that stings. Perfectionism is not power. It's a pretty prison. A prison that looks golden on the outside, but keeps you stuck inside your own mind. You say you're waiting for the right time to launch your business idea. You want the logo to be flawless, the website to be sleek, the strategy to be airtight. You stay in this loop of endless planning, redesigning, and second guessing. But what you're really doing is protecting yourself from one thing, the fear of not being enough. And so the idea never leaves the page. The dream stays in the notebook. The vision dies in silence. You might think this is ambition. It's not. It's fear disguised as standards. You're not polishing your dream, you're hiding behind it. Because if it's never finished, no one can judge it. If it never launches, no one can fail it. Take a look at your camera roll. Maybe you took 37 selfies before posting one. And even after you post, you spend the next 20 minutes checking who liked it, who didn't, who watched your story. You don't just want to look good, you want to look perfect. But you know what's crazy? In trying to be perfect, you end up feeling empty. You trade authenticity for approval. You trade presence for performance. How many times have you typed out a message, poured your heart into it, and then deleted it before sending? You thought it sounded too emotional. You thought they might not understand. You thought you might come off as weak. So you erased your truth to protect your pride. That's what perfectionism does. It doesn't let your heart breathe. Maybe you've been telling yourself you'll start going to the gym once you buy the right outfit, or that you'll shoot your first YouTube video once you have the perfect lighting set up. But deep down, you're afraid of starting messy. You want to look like you already made it before you even begin. You've been conditioned to believe that value only comes with polish, that people only respect the flawless. But here's the truth. People don't connect with perfection, they connect with real. No one relates to someone who never stumbles. We admire the one who falls and still rises, still tries, still shows up. Think about it. You never remember the most polished speech. You remember the one that cracked, that trembled, that made you feel something. So you never remember the perfect Instagram model. You remember the girl who shared her stretch marks and said, "I still love me." You never remember the safest song. You remember the one that broke your heart open. Perfectionism tells you to wait until everything is aligned. But life doesn't wait. Opportunities don't pause. People are creating with broken hearts, tight budgets, and messy drafts. And they're still winning. You don't need a flawless start. You need a fearless one. Because while you're trying to look perfect, someone with half your talent and twice your courage is out there making moves, building brands, telling stories, changing lives. Not because they were ready, but because they refused to wait for perfect. Your story doesn't need polish to be powerful. It just needs your voice. So stop editing yourself out of your own life. Messy effort beats perfect hesitation every single time. There are wounds that never bleed, but they scream every single day. Not out loud, but in your choices, your silence, your anger, your fear of being seen. We talk about growth, healing, moving on, but how can you move forward when your mind is still stuck in a moment from years ago? That's the trauma loop. It's not just about what happened, it's about what never got resolved. And until you heal it, it becomes the lens through which you see everything. Maybe as a child you were told to be quiet, don't cry, don't be so sensitive. So now as an adult, you find yourself swallowing every emotion. Because deep down, you believe no one wants to hear your truth. You apologize for feeling. You call yourself dramatic for having boundaries. That's not your personality. That's a scar that learned how to survive. That's a scar that learned how to survive. Maybe you were in a relationship where love was given only when you pleased them, when you stayed small, when you didn't challenge them. Now every time someone shows you kindness, you question it. You sabotage good love because you think it's too good to be true. You're not being difficult, you're just trying to protect yourself from feeling abandoned again. How many of us chase validation from people who remind us of the ones who hurt us? You find yourself working overtime to impress a boss who reminds you of a parent who was never satisfied. You date someone emotionally unavailable because you're still trying to win the approval you never got as a child. It's not love. It's repetition. It's your unhealed trauma trying to rewrite its ending. Have you ever noticed how you overreact to small things? Someone cancels plans. You feel deeply rejected. A friend forgets to text back. And your chest tightens, heart races, thoughts spiral. It's not about this moment. It's the pain of those moments coming back to visit. The moment you were left alone. The moment you were ignored. The moment you were made to feel invisible. Maybe you were bullied in school, laughed at, dismissed. And now, as an adult, you can't speak up in meetings. You shrink when attention is on you. You shrink when attention is on you. You fear judgment so deeply that even compliments make you uncomfortable. You say you're shy, but you're not shy. You're still holding hands with shame. Some of you use success as a shield. You've built the career, the title, the lifestyle, but inside you feel empty. Because you're not chasing purpose, you're chasing proof. Proof that you're enough. Proof that you matter. And no amount of applause can drown out the silence of what you never healed. And then there are those moments when life gets quiet, no distractions, no phone, no noise. Suddenly, the loneliness hits. The anxiety creeps in. So what do? You scroll, you shop, you drink, you overwork. You do anything not to sit with yourself. Because deep down, you fear what you'll feel when there's nothing left to distract you. That's the trauma loop. It makes you relive old pain through new people. It convinces you that numbness is safer than vulnerability. It teaches you to wear a smile when all you want to do is scream. You don't need to hate the people who hurt you, but you need to stop making space for the pain they planted in you. Because your future doesn't deserve to pay the price for someone else's mistake. And healing doesn't mean you forget. It means you stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. Numbness doesn't mean you forget. It means you stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. You stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. You stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. You stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. And you stop bleeding for the sake of the pain they put you through. You stop bleeding for the sake of the pain. It means you stop building your life around your past and start building it for the person you're becoming. You cannot create a new chapter while rereading the old one. But as long as you deny the wound, you deny the wisdom it came with. So the loop continues. Same emotions, same patterns, same pain, just dressed in different days. There's a kind of addiction no one talks about because it looks so polite, so nice, so sweet. It doesn't destroy your body, but it drains your soul. It's the addiction to approval, and it's more dangerous than we think because it convinces you to live for claps instead of calling, to be liked instead of being real. You wake up and the first thing you do is check your phone, not for peace, not for clarity, but to see if someone texted, liked, followed, noticed. Your mood for the day depends on someone else's thumbs. One negative comment, you're spiraling. 10 likes instead of 30, you're questioning your worth. You don't even realize how your self-image has become a performance. Every move designed to win validation you were never supposed to chase. Think about how many times you've bitten your tongue in a conversation just to avoid upsetting someone. How many times you've said yes when everything in your gut was screaming no. You didn't want to disappoint. You didn't want to cause waves. So you sacrificed your peace for their comfort. And every time you do it, you teach yourself that your feelings are less important than someone else's opinion. You walk into a room and you scan it. Not to observe, but to adjust. You shrink if people seem cold. You shift your tone, your posture, your truth, just to be liked. You're not being kind, you're shape-shifting for survival. And the tragedy is, people end up loving the version of you that isn't even real.